redeem this chamber for me. Because, you know, for 15 years, only 11 for me, there's some who've been here since the beginning, we demanded our rights. And right over here, when they were testifying against us, we would hear from a parade of mostly religious bigots, there's really no other word for it, calling us every name in the book. And the city council, some of the council members literally waving Bibles in their hands would vote with them and not with us. It was painful, especially when AIDS got started in 1981 and they would kick us while we were down. So we didn't pass the bill until 1986, and to our shame, New York City was one of the last big cities to pass a gay rights bill. And it was only a gay rights bill in those days, gay and bisexual. It wasn't covering transgender until later. And now we need federal legislation which will cover us entirely. And I have to correct the speaker, it's not ENDA anymore, ENDA is ending. We are fighting for comprehensive federal LGBT rights legislation. Now, the great enemy of the dignity of LGBT people remains anti-gay religions, who still, you know, teach terrible things about us. And I support their First Amendment right to their anti-gay views. That's the First Amendment. But that does not mean that their doctrines that condemn us are not contemptible. I have been doing the Gay USA show for the last 30 years, for the last 20 with the great Ann Northrup up there in the balcony. But it is not fair to take our tax money and give it to anti-gay schools. But that is what Governor Cuomo and Cardinal Dolan together are up there in Albany trying to do today. And it's, according to a bill in the City Council, it's what the City Council wants to do by spending $50 million on city-funded security officers for every private and religious school that wants one, no matter how anti-gay. Something these schools, I want to say, have gotten along with out for hundreds of years, but now we're demanding as a demonstrable necessity. I'll tell you what's a demonstrable necessity. Housing homeless LGBT youth. Protect religious groups from specific threats by all means. Protect all New Yorkers. But before this council caters to anti-gay constituencies with something they have no right to, please show some respect to the right of our kids to a roof over their heads. I'm not trying to be ungracious in saying this today, but it's an important issue that's before the council right now. I hope if I'm being honored for anything, it's for trying to tell the truth as an activist and journalist. Larry Kramer said, "There are not enough of us who identify first and foremost as gay. Until there are no more kids expelled from their homes for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, we have to assert our gay identities first and foremost for their sakes."
Of our national anthem, let's welcome back the wonderful middle church choir for their performance.
Before the performance, we will this year in the LGBT community.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. One day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory.
was terrific. Let's send them off. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Council Member Corey Johnson to present the proclamation to tonight's next honoree. From a young age, Corey has been a trailblazer for the LGBT youth. Now, as chair of the Committee on Health, his work has included introducing 2 bills which have since passed that enable transgender New Yorkers to correct the gender designation on their birth certificates. Please join me in welcoming Council Member Corey Johnson.
It's a great start to the month, and before I talk a little bit about the person that I have the honor of recognizing tonight, I want to mention that, and it was said earlier by Councilmember Danny Drum and the speaker, that our amazing MC tonight, George Takei, is someone who has not just become an activist, 8 million likes on Facebook on LGBT issues. But for many folks who may not know this, as Danny mentioned, was a leader in speaking out against the internment of Asian Americans in the United States and Japanese. But George himself went to Hollywood in the 1950s, when there were not many Asian people that were represented in Hollywood. And he is now a trailblazer as an LGBT activist and hero, but he was a trailblazer 60 years ago in Hollywood, paving the way for I want to say that I'm deeply proud of this caucus, all 6 of us being able to work together and collectively, as the speaker said, for LGBT people across our great city. And as was mentioned very sweetly, that in December we passed a bill that corrected an injustice that was allowed to exist for far too long. And now, as of about 2 months ago, when the law went into effect, transgender New Yorkers can go and finally get an accurate birth certificate that reflects who they are. Which is very, very cool. And as of, I believe, 2 hours ago, there are 9 days left in the legislative session in Albany, and this relates to the person that I was set to recognize tonight, but as of 2 hours ago, the New York State Assembly passed agenda for the 8th time, which is great. But the New York State Senate, the Republican leadership, continued to not allow a vote on this bill, which shows the change that we need. So tonight, I am incredibly honored to have the opportunity to recognize and present a proclamation to a very dear friend of mine who sadly is not here because he's up in Albany continuing the good fight on a whole host of progressive issues. His name is Kevin Finnegan, and he is the political director for 1199, the Healthcare Workers Union here in New York City. Kevin I hope you can hear us, Kevin. Kevin has remained committed and active in the LGBT movement his entire life. He began his career in electoral politics as a volunteer for the progressive organization in San Francisco, working to elect Harvey Milk and George Moscone, the 2 that were shot down. He was president of the Gay and Lesbian Independent Democrats, GLID, one of our Democratic clubs in New York City, and he served as an advisor to the Political Action Committee Board at the Empire State Pride agenda for many years. Kevin also worked closely with Governor Cuomo and State Senator Tom Duane in passing marriage equality legislation in New York. In addition to his activism on behalf of the LGBT community, his record on progressive politics is far too long to list here. He has been a strategist on political campaigns, including Hillary Clinton's first Senate race in 2000 and our governor's gubernatorial race. He is one of the founders of the Working Families Party in New York State, for which he served as a general counsel. As I said, he's the political director for 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, the largest and fastest growing healthcare union in the country. 1199 represents over 400,000 healthcare workers in Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Florida, and has one of the biggest political operations in the nation. He is responsible for managing all of the major legislative and electoral efforts that the union has undertaken. And the person who's going to accept the award on his behalf tonight was already recognized, and I think it's important to recognize him again. My predecessor, though before the former speaker, Chris Quinn, was a trailblazer, an incredible man elected in 1991, the first openly gay man elected to the New York City Council, the first openly HIV positive elected official in the state of New York, someone who is, I think, very popular in my district on the west side of Manhattan. You just have to call him Tom. You don't have to say his last name. But he is known throughout the entire city and the state as someone that throughout his entire political career has stood up for people who may not have a voice, whether it be the LGBT community, whether it be the incarcerated, whether it be runaway homeless youth. It doesn't matter the community. Tom Duane has been a hero and a progressive champion for over 25 years in our city and in our state. And he is the perfect person to accept this award on Kevin Finnegan's behalf because they have worked on so many of these issues together. So my friend, my hero, one of my predecessors, the incredible Tom Duane, accepting this award.